I struggle with secondary infertility, and the pain and the grief of that is just really, really heavy. It was always just my dream to be a mom. I would say my motherhood fascination began really young, and my desire to be a mom super young. I grew up in a great Christian family, just had a happy childhood, lots of joy. And I think I watched my mom, I'm the oldest of 7 kids. I watched her just being really fulfilled as a mom and lots of joy and delight in being a mom. And so from age 2, when my brother was born, my first sibling, I have just always had a baby on my hip, I feel like, of a younger sibling, until my sister was born when I was 14. And so it was just the dream of my life, beyond singing, beyond acting, beyond writing books, any of the things I've done, the dream of my life has been to be a mom. My journey to getting to be a mom was much longer than what I would have ever hoped. I actually didn't meet my husband till I was 32. And I got married at 33. And then I had our first daughter at 36. And so I think there's just a tremendous gratefulness in my heart that I have been able to have children. And I feel like when I first was, embarking on this motherhood journey, I remember being pregnant and just reading all the books, like all the sleep books, all the healthy eating, like just all of it. I was just like, I'm gonna read the books and try to get this motherhood thing down before I even have this baby. And I already felt, I think, that I'd navigated motherhood in some ways, just being a second mom to my siblings. And so I was like, this is gonna be a breeze. I've already been second mom, read all the books. And so I think I went into it with this false sense of confidence. And then you have this tiny little human that's relying on you for their absolute survival. I think the pressure that I was carrying, I don't know, putting almost this perfectionistic pressure on myself to get it right, was something that I had to navigate. There was so much joy, there was so much fulfillment, so much delight in this little human and finally getting to be a mom. And I also had to learn over time to lean into grace. There was some settling down that happened in me as I had successive children. I struggled with secondary infertility after my first, and so we were trying for a couple of years, and that was really challenging. I miscarried a couple times. And then I remember just being really heartbroken about that aspect. For some reason, I didn't think I would miscarry. I think my mom she hadn't had any miscarriages, and so I didn't think that would be part of my journey, even though I knew it was a possibility. And so that sense of feeling like my family is not complete, but this is not working out, my body felt like it was failing me in some ways. That was a really challenging time, and a part of what I call like my winter season. And now I reflect back, and it's been probably about 10 years since the first one. And I recognize that part of why it was so hard was it's linked to dreams. When you know you're pregnant and you start visualizing that little girl or boy and this new life that's being created inside of you, there's a dream that is born immediately. And so then when you find out that you're miscarrying or miscarried, it's a loss of a dream. And the other part was just you don't know how long that season of uncertainty is going to be. Like, will I ever get pregnant again? Or, for somebody that's miscarrying and they haven't had children, I think that the uncertainty is even greater. It's like, will I ever get pregnant? And the pain and the grief of that is just really, really heavy. For me, when God brought my husband and I into this, like what we call our spring season, out of that winter, there was just so much rich joy and so much rich thankfulness because we had to stare in the face such vulnerability and sit in that tension of that transition time of when we didn't know if we would fall pregnant again or get pregnant, of God, we are desperately hurting right now. And we seek to trust you in the pain. We trust that you're good. We're going to stand on that you're good, but we are hurting. And we're not our best selves even with each other in our marriage because there's so much tension, you know. But I look back now with the thankfulness of having walked through something really hard together and come through to the other side together. And it does create a richness, I think, in a Christian marriage because you've clung to God and to each other in such a hard time of grief, and you've weathered that storm. So there's almost like a resilience that I have in our marriage now because we've navigated hard things. And there's a gratefulness for the season we're in as a family and the children that we have, the 3 precious children that we have that may not have been there to that full extent had we not gone through those hard times. I have 3 children. They're now ages 12, 8, and 5. I just feel so thankful and delighted that this is my reality. Like I still, even now after being a mom for 12 years, I hear them say mom or mama, and I was like, that's me. Like they're talking to me. This is my story. I'm living my dreams. And when I'm out on the road with music, I travel with a portion of the family. My kids go with me. There's such a sense of delight in the travel and doing ministry together. And then just honestly, even more rich to me are the simple moments at home where it's like we're homeschooling or I'm watching the kids play or we're laughing around the dinner table, sharing stories. These are the moments that just feel so rich and so beautiful and so deeply satisfying. One of the things that I had heard about parenthood before I was a parent was how you uncover this knowledge of how God sees us as his kids in a really practical way, and it deepens your understanding of God's perspective of us as his children. And I know that that has been true for me because, you know, there's times where you just look at your little human that has been birthed through your own body. And, you know, I think of my 5-year-old son, and he could be, you know, having a great day, or he could kind of be having a rough day, you know, and throwing a little bit of having his moment, you know, of like pushing back on something he's been asked to do. But the love for him and the joy in him that is present in my heart, and the grace that I feel towards him, and the softness in my heart that I feel towards him and to my girls is so real and so powerful that then I start going, okay, wow, that's a perfect example, but even more so of how God feels about us. Sometimes we don't default to a very easy understanding of the grace of God. Our culture just perpetuates an idea of that we've got to earn love, but with God, his grace is there, and it's so real and so big and so powerful. And so I think motherhood has really given me more of that picture of how God sees me. And I've even put language from the stage, put language around this idea of God's love eyes, just his eyes of love looking at me. And that if I could live in his love eyes, the freedom that I would experience in my life is just so profound. And so that's something I think motherhood has really taught me, is just that love is there for me, that grace is there for me, and that he's looking at me with those kind of love eyes that I look at my children with, but more so. For me, there was a lot kind of growing up of boundaries, but also lots of good, healthy conversation. I felt like my parents were available to talk about the important things of life and to dialogue, and great conversations in the car about everything, life. And so that presentness, I think, was a real thing. Sitting on the bed at night, kind of discussing a lot, especially as I would come into, you know, teen years. And so I'm just so thankful for that, and definitely something that I want to carry through to my children. I mean, something that I think about very consistently is I want to be present to them. I don't want them to go, Mom was distracted on her phone, or Mom was worried about all this and that and didn't really see me, didn't really look me in the eye, or wasn't available. I want to slow down my life enough to be available to my children, and that's been a very conscious thing even in recent years as my kids have gotten older. There's grace and there's forgiveness, but I think I'm learning the importance of, as a parent, seeking to be healthy and the fullest version of myself that I can be in my relationship with God and in guarding my own heart, because that models a certain element of wholeness and fullness to my children. And so much in motherhood, I believe, is caught rather than taught. They're just picking up on all these nuances in our lives and learning from how we live. And so I'm so grateful for this journey. I'm grateful for the highs and the lows and how it's drawn me to Jesus in my dependency on him, because I've needed him to mother. And I hope that one day my children might rise and call me blessed, that they see that not a perfect mom, but a mom that loved them wholeheartedly and sought to honor God in how I mothered.